I put some special on it. It had a little bit of oil, and I said, where is this coming from? I can't believe it. No one said you know, brighten it up a bit, and butter some breadcrumbs and put it on top of it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Muriel Smith, and I should tell you in the beginning, I'm of the Harry Larison frame of thought. Harry Larison was a freeholder director in Monmouth County for a long, long time, and he always started every one of his meetings on time. And at one time, another another freeholder said to him, yeah, but the mayor of someplace is coming and the governor's coming. And Harry said, yep, but these people are all here, and he had the chance to be here at 8 o'clock. We're starting it now. And that's exactly what I think that every person should do, so that's what we're doing tonight. And my name is Muriel Smith. I do not live in Highlands, and that's my big regret. But my heart is still over here. You all have to know that. My heart's never left Highlands. I lived here for 40 years. I've written for many local newspapers. I still write for some local newspapers. I have a history column, spasmodically, in the Atlantic Highlands Herald. I write regularly for the Monmouth Journal, and I write for several other magazines and several other newspapers. My claims to fame are I lived in Highlands for more than 40 years. Then my husband and I, after he got quite ill, decided that God was giving us a message that we had to change our lifestyle. So for our 40th wedding anniversary, we bought us an RV, and we took off and traveled the entire country. We spent 10 years living in an RV and visited every state of the Union. We did fly to Alaska and to Hawaii, but we visited every state. I chose to come back to New Jersey because after seeing every other state, I know which one is best. I couldn't come back to Highlands because Highlands got very affluent in those 10 years that I was gone. When my husband died, though, the Navy asked me, I had done a lot of volunteer work for the Navy, so they asked me if I would come back if they paid me, and I said, you betcha I would. So I came back, and because my primary jobs were over at Colts Neck on the Navy base there, I lived in Freehold, and I still worked over here at Leonardo at the pier on my lucky days. Don't work for the Navy anymore, but I do still live in Freehold. I am a certified mediator for New Jersey's Supreme Court, Superior Court, and I mediate at the courthouse in Freehold. I'm also a member of the Monmouth County Historical Commission. I'm a member of the Twin Lights Commission too, and don't you just love that new light up there that just shines on the Twin Lights at night? Coming off the hook, it's just spectacular to see. And I was a gunson cutting down the trees, but now that I've seen how gorgeous it looks at night, it's okay that they took their trees down. Let me explain tonight's debate for you. I might tell you in the first place that I know that there's been a lot of talk in town. Again, I don't live in town, so I'm not familiar with it all, but I've heard some scuttlebutt, and I want everybody to know that I'm the one that selected the date that this debate was going to be held. It was Mr. Nolan who called me up and asked me if I would run a debate. I agreed because I've done several of them here in Highlands in the past, and I've done them in other places as well. October 20th just was the right date for me. I am busy. I do a lot of different things at night, and so October 20th worked for me, and it worked for the community center, and that's why we're having the debate tonight. I know candidate Ryan was not able to make it tonight, or I don't believe she was able to make it. I know she had a family commitment. I have corresponded with candidate Ryan, and I did say to her, I know exactly what it's like to have to make a choice between family and the community. My husband was a councilman here in the, Joan, in the 80s, I guess he was a councilman here. And I know that we had to make a lot of sacrifices for family to have him conduct all of his council business and do the things that he thought was right for Highlands as well. However, Cynthia Crowley?
Before we get too far down the road in the agenda, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, please do.
I sure will. Do we have a veteran in the office and in the building? Can I have a veteran come up and lead us, please? Who's a veteran here? Come on, would you lead us, please, sir? And your name is? What is it? Jerry Feliciano. Happiness Feliciano. If you would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Candidate Ryan told me that she was not able to be here tonight. Cynthia Fair is campaign manager for candidate Ryan and candidate Braswell, and she will have a statement from candidate Ryan for the first section of the debate. She's not going to be in a position to answer the questions that candidate Ryan has not had an opportunity to see, as none of the candidates have had an opportunity to see. So she's going to leave at the intermission. Our candidates are in the order that they appear on the ballot, from left to right. So the ballot, Mr. Braswell is the first person on the ballot. Mr. Wells is the first. I don't know everybody, I apologize. Mr. Wells is the first candidate on the ballot. Mr. Braswell is the second person on the ballot. Ms. Ryan is the third person on the ballot. Mr. Coburg is the fourth person on the ballot. And Mr. Nolan is the fifth person on the ballot. Mr. Coburg called me last night about 7 o'clock to tell me that he had changed his mind and he is opting not to participate in the debate or any debate before this election. The election is November 7th. I urge everybody to go out and vote, regardless of who you're voting for. I just think all of our veterans have put their lives on the line to give you the privilege to go out and vote. And the least we can do is, in addition to say thank you to them, take advantage of the great privilege we have in the United States to cast ballots. In this election, there are 5 candidates in Highlands. It's a nonpartisan form of government here. And even though 2 candidates are running together, there are 5 votes. You have 5 candidates from which to choose 2 people to run for council. In other words, they're not, if I'm correct here, they're not blocked together, that one vote constitutes 2 people. So you do cast 2 ballots out of the 5 people, and it could be any 2 of the 5 that you feel are the best ones. The way we're going to run this debate is I'm going to ask each candidate if he or she will give a 2-minute statement, giving some biographical information or setting up his platform or giving an outline of what he wants to accomplish. It'll be 2 minutes for each one. We have timers here, and these are brilliant students seniors from Henry Hudson Regional, and I appreciate your coming out tonight. So each candidate will have 2 minutes in order to give whatever he wants or she wants to give in the first part of it. I'll start with at this end and work my way down for the first question. Following that, the second part will be 3 questions that will be asked of each of the 4 candidates for which they have time to prepare. I selected 3 questions. I emailed the 3 questions to each of the candidates on Tuesday. I'll ask you now, did each of you candidates get the questions that I sent to you?
Yes.
And because candidate Ryan can't be here, she asked if she could have a surrogate. Candidate Ryan has prepared the responses herself, but she asked if she could have a surrogate to read her responses. Each candidate, after they have their 3 minutes to answer each question, at the end of each series of questions, will then have 2 minutes to rebut anything they want from any of the other candidates. Following that, we'll have a 10-minute intermission, and then when we start the next section, there are index cards out on the counter there. I have received some cards, some questions by email. If you have not picked up a card and you have a question that you would like to see considered tonight, I'd urge you to get a card and fill it out. By intermission, I would like these cards. We'll just draw, I'll select the questions that we'll have, but I am going to go through them first to make sure that there's nothing personal, there's nothing derogatory. There are questions that are going to be positive and meaningful, both to the voters and to the improvement of Highlands. Following that section, each candidate will then have another 3 minutes to give a closing statement and to say anything else that he or she feels is necessary to say. Candidates, anybody have any questions? Are we ready to start? Okie doke, timers, are we ready to start? We're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to give an opening statement. Mr. Wells, could I ask you to give us a background on yourself? Please either stand or sit, whichever is more comfortable for you.
Thank you, Muriel. Thank you guys for coming out. I know it's a Friday night. I know your time is valuable. I really, really appreciate everybody coming out, hearing what we have to say. Again, my name is Greg Wells. I know a lot of you don't know me. I have actually lived in town for 15 years. I moved here, rented a house over off of Portland Road 15 years ago. Loved being close to the shore. Loved easy access to New York City. Loved it so much I built my house over on Bayside Drive, 2007, right back, nestled back behind the C Street Ferry. Have been involved in the community, pretty active for the last 5 years or so. I've been a member of the Land Use Board, the Planning Board, Master Plan Subcommittee, the Recreation Committee, the Open Space Committee, and the Communications Committee. So I've got a pretty good idea, a pretty good feel for what's going on in the town. And I think I've got 3 unique qualities that I can offer to this town in the council role. First, everybody who knows me, everybody who's served on these committees with me, knows that I have an abundance of fresh and unique new ideas. New ways on how to solve some long-standing issues and unlocking some new opportunities for the town. Anyone who's discussed any of these ideas with me also knows that I'm very open to communication and compromise. It's the only way we're going to move anything forward in this town. I don't have an agenda other than seeing progress for this community. If Rick, the City Council, Ken, Rosemary, Frank, John, anyone has a better idea or a new angle or a new way of doing things, great. Let's get it done. Let's work together. Let's collaborate. Let's drive things to conclusion. 2 minutes.
3 more seconds.
Sorry. We'll have plenty more time. Thank you, and I'll happy to tell you more another day.
Thanks, Mr. Wells. I appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Mr. Braswell. Thank you kindly. I'm sorry, Mr. Braswell.
Hope I can get this done in.
I'm sorry?
I'm a little overdone here. Hope I can get this done in 2 minutes. Tell me when I'm starting. Does that go? Okay. It's nice to see everyone out tonight. I recognize a lot of faces, a couple of friendly ones, and I see I have a mentor in the audience too. But I welcome this opportunity. I'm going to give you some my personal background and go all the way back. I was born in Georgia. I grew up in Green Beach. I graduated the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, which is in Pittsburgh. I got my degree of photography there. I immediately got a job in New York City at a company called Media Management Corporation. And then in 1983, I accepted a job at Audiovisual Laboratories in Atlanta, Highlands. Anyone remember that?
Yeah.
I know a couple do. At that company, I traveled the world, but all the while, I called Highlands home. Fell in love with Highlands. I bought a home here, and I've been a resident ever since I moved here in 1983. In 1996, I met this wonderful girl while I was wearing a full face mask of Bob Dole. She didn't know who I was, but by September of 1997, Carl and I got married anyway. We've been married for 20 years. We have a son, Alex, stepdaughter, Lauren. Carl and I own a commercial building downtown in Highlands on Bay Avenue and North Street. I established, in that building, I operate my business. I established Shore Graphics in 1991, providing web design, printing, photography service. More recently, I've become an FAA licensed provider of aerial photography services, and that's going to be an exciting addition to the business. In my spare time, I've served on the Highlands Zoning Board Adjustment as board member, vice chair, and chair for the past 25 years.
10 seconds.
Oh, goodness. Also the Sewer Authority as board member, chair, and vice chair for 10 years. I've served on the elementary school PTO treasurer while my son attended there. I'm presently on the planning board as vice chair. I'm a member of the Green Team, the Highlands Historical Society, and the Highlands Lions Club.
That's good to be at Mr. Wells.
And,
Mr. Braswell.
Okay, you can stop him all you want, but I don't want to.
I apologize.
Okay, I'm going to cover the rest of this stuff and some of my other answers.
There you go. Thank you very much. And I apologize for not getting the names again. My excuse for this always is my last name's Smith, so everything else after that is hard for me. I apologize.
My son this one.
Cynthia, could I ask you to give Rosemary's statement?
Yes, but don't start the time yet. I just want to apologize for reading this because these are not my words, they're Rosemary's, so I'm sorry if I don't make eye contact. Good evening and thank you for taking time out of your evening to come out tonight. My name is Rosemary Ryan and I have been a lifelong resident on Highland Avenue. I'm sorry that I am not appearing tonight. I had a family commitment that was made prior to schedule this evening's debate. It is my hope that you will not hold this against me. If elected, I absolutely will make Borough Highlands my first priority, and I believe my past actions have proven that. I've attended grammar school in Highlands and went to Mater Dei High School. After graduation, I attended Iona College in New Rochelle, where my intended major was economics. I left Iona because of financial reasons and then attended Brookdale Community College. While at Brookdale, I received a phone call from the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, which started me on my 30-year career in the legal profession. I have worked in the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, the Public Defender's Office, a few private law firms, and was secretary to a Superior Court judge. I left my job at the courthouse 17 years ago and have worked for Toby Gravel, Esquire, since that time. While working for Toby, I went back to Brookdale to get the paralegal program so that I could further my career. And I've been her office manager and paralegal for the past 20 years. I'm a single mother of two wonderful children, Kara and Brendan, whom I put through college. Growing up in a small town and being the youngest of 6 siblings has blessed me with many friendships in our great little town. When my children were young, I was very active in the Booster Club and taught youth groups at LLPH. I was a soccer coach for the Highlands and Atlantic Highlands Recreation Program and OLPH. During my children's high school years, I served as a member and president of the Henry Hudson Booster Club and changed it into the PTO. I'm a strong advocate for our tri-district schools, and I was fortunate to be elected and served as a member of the Henry Hudson Board of Education for 2 consecutive terms, serving as president for 3 of the 6 years. And under my presidency, we hired the first tri-district supervisor. I want to just go. I'm currently a land use board member, a member of the Highlands Green Team and Environmental Commission, and a resident member of the Highlands Business Partnership.
Good enough. Thank you very kindly. Got that in fast. That was very good. And I might add at this point, I did know candidate Brian as a child growing up when she was a child, not when I was a child. I also lived on Highland Avenue until my husband and I went in the RV. Mr. Nolan?
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thanks, Muriel, for coming to be our moderator. My name is Frank Nolan. I've been married to my wife, Lori, for 18 years. We have 3 small children, one of them in the school system here. We've been homeowners, family business owners, and volunteers in Highlands for a couple decades. 27 years of my life I spent as an automotive executive. I retired from that in January. Got a real estate license, and so did my wife Lori, and I'm also a title insurance producer at Two Rivers Title over in Little Silver. So I'm basically working from home now and going back and forth to Little Silver. I'm running again because I really love Highlands, and it's just something that's in your blood. It doesn't get out of your blood no matter how long you did it. So even after 10 years as a former mayor for 6 and councilman for 4, it's something I want to put my experience doing that in 10 years plus on the planning board, maybe 9 off and on. It's hard to remember, to be honest with you. But I want to put that experience to work for you again as a council person. When you're up here in 5 council people, it really doesn't matter which title you have 1 vote. There's certain things that a mayor can do, but they still need most of it advice and consent from the council. So you got to build a shared vision with at least 2 other council people to get anything done you want to get done. And that's what I want to do going forward. Some of the things I want to talk about again is expanding on some of the projects we started doing before Sandy and Irene hit. I have some references, but I'm sure we'll get into that later on. I'll talk about that and reference ordinances that we did prior to Sandy that were going to affect our flood mitigation, but we passed them as, I believe, 5-0, and we just couldn't move on after that because we had to concentrate on other stuff. Got a couple of big decisions coming up. We're going to have a new borough hall, which everybody read about in an article in the paper, I believe. We need a new administrator now because our person that we had quit. And there's going to be other things coming up that we don't know about yet. And I want to put my hat in the ring, obviously, here tonight and let you know I'd like to put that experience to work for you humbly. I'm looking for your support for one of those seats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. I think it's pretty wonderful that all of you have such engaging backgrounds and have offered so much that you had to squeeze it in to get at least a good portion of what you all do within the 3 minutes. So thanks very much for keeping to that. The next portion is, these are 3 questions that I decided myself and that I sent the emails to each of the candidates so that they would have time to prepare answers for them. Sometimes it's better if you have time to prepare an answer, if you can give it some thought and perhaps do some research. But other times you have to be able to sit on your, think on your feet and be able to do something right away. And that's why I have divided this into 2 sections where they had time to think and prepare at home. And the following section, nobody will have known these answers, the questions before they hear them. So because I started the first one with Mr. Wells, and because I have to practice Mr. Braswell's name because I keep forgetting it, I'm starting the first question with Mr. Braswell. And each candidate will have 3 minutes in order to answer the question. When all 4 of you have finished answering the one question, you'll each have 1 minute to debate that particular question, 1 minute total. So you can address it to anyone or any of the other 3 candidates. The first question: when I lived in Highlands, there was always talk that the town was divided into 2 portions, the Goat Hillers and the Clammers, meaning that there was a separation between the taxpayers who lived on the hill and those who lived below the hill. I lived in both, by the way. Does that feeling still exist? And if so, give specific examples of how and why you think it exists, and what is your plan for either continuing that divide or drawing the borough together as a single community? Mr. Braswell.
Okay.
3 minutes you have.
Okay. That question is a lot more complicated than it seems. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the word separation, and then I'm going to talk about the word taxpayer in that question. The 2 neighborhoods have their own distinctive characteristics, and the residents in each have created an identity based on the characteristics of their neighborhood, and therefore create what you might call a separation, but a distinction of their own. And you're probably not going to change that kind of the difference between the 2 groups. I consider that normal and healthy, and I don't think that's going away. Now, when you add the word taxpayer to that, it changes the conversation completely. And after meeting with many, many people up on the hill, in what I call the upland part of Highlands, it's clear that the feeling that you're alluding to in your question does exist. They don't think they're getting the municipal services that their taxpayers entitle them to as compared to what they see going on downtown. I think this is mostly a lack of, even though there's a great deal of effort put into communication, there's probably a lack of communication and a lack of listening maybe on the part of some. But from the municipal point of view, everyone, whether you're uptown or downtown, are entitled to all the same municipal services. I think that the upland people are going to feel a whole lot better in a few weeks when they see that Twin Light Terrace and North Peak Street get resurfaced, which is one of their main complaints that we got up there, is that they're concerned about road maintenance. Bay Street has recently gotten new water mains and new gas, and they are soon to get new sewer mains and to be resurfaced. And that's a large part of the upland, part of the Highlands. Also, the upland residents see a lot of projects going on downtown, And when they see that, to them that means a lot of spending is happening downtown that's not being spent uptown. But we have to keep in mind that when we see projects like the streetscape, and we're talking a lot about projects on our infrastructure with the stormwater system and the sewer system, that is indeed a lot of spending we're talking about, but those things affect the borough all across the board. We have to remember that the sanitary system and the stormwater collection system extends to the furthest corners of the borough.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, really? Okay, the sanitary system mains are almost 100 years old, and they've never seen any meaningful maintenance or upgrades. And
Thanks, Mr. Braswell.
that went quick.
Cynthia, do you need the question repeated?
No, and obviously, if it is true that there is still a divide, I'm not so sure that it's clear that there is one. My candidacy would be not one that would perpetuate it. When Sandy hit and we were spared on the hill while downtown was destroyed, there seemed to be one borough citizen. Hill folks were doing all they could to assist those who were in need downtown. I walked down the hill the day after the storm and pitched in because this is my town. This is not a phenomenon. It is a basic caring and community activism, and it is obviously existing throughout the borough, regardless of which zone one lives in. You want that feeling of oneness to be more of a constant in order to unite everyone. To accomplish that, the borough officials need to demonstrate on a daily basis that they do not have expectations of a divided borough in their demeanor and in their legislative actions.
Thank you very kindly. Mr. Nolan, do you need the question repeated, sir?
No, I actually have the printout in front of me that you sent us. I will expand on that a little bit, and I agree. I will tell you, being on the council at the time of Sandy, the amount of people who had no power on the hill, but came down and helped out everybody downtown, including my own house and many people around us and our neighbors, was unbelievable. So I didn't grow up here. I didn't come here until '96 when I met my beautiful wife, Lori. So I don't know how much of a divide there was. I know a lot of you grew up here and maybe can feel it. I didn't feel it. But I will go back to that again. I would say if there was any bad feelings or animosity at that time, there was really not a lot of that being shared from the time after Sandy on, because so many people came down and helped. We had obviously more than 1,000 houses impacted downtown, 1,000 residences by Sandy and the water. And we had volunteers coming down by the hundreds. And they had family coming from other towns of people that lived uptown to come down and help downtown. And the same animosity, if there was any, I believe totally went away post-Sandy, as I believe any animosity that existed between Atlantic Highlands and Highlands, a lot of that went away because people from Atlantic Highlands came into town by the hundreds to help us downtown. And we got a lot done. If you look at the record, a lot of shared services since then have been tacked on due to what happened after Sandy and the response we got back from our friends in Atlantic Highlands. And that's only common sense. We're going to share a high school. We might as well share other things to try to cut expenses. And I will say that part of that is communication. And that's why as mayor, I think I was the first one, I might be wrong, that held town hall meetings. We had them every other month. People were telling me enough already with the town hall meetings when we were doing them. But I think it was important because a lot of people couldn't get out here on Wednesday nights when we had council meetings on Wednesday nights. And in that time they were in the grammar school. So I think if there was any, from my experience here over 21 years or so, a lot of that went by the wayside post-Sandy because of all the things everybody did from uptown and all the caring and generosity they showed to the people downtown when they did nothing.
Thank you very kindly. We'll have 1 minute for a rebuttal, and we'll start with Mr. Braswell for that as well. Oh, I'm not going to let you talk?
You already forgot his name, huh?
I'm sorry, Mr.
You already forgot
Ross.
about him and forgot his name.
Thanks, Muriel.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'm going to take a little bit different direction for this one. Rather than talk about what divides us as a town, let's talk about the problems and opportunities that unite us as a town. Problem number one, we're all paying high taxes. We know that. It costs a lot to run this town, no doubt. We need to focus on new shared services. I'm not talking about the big stuff like outsourcing our police, our fire department, OEM. No. We've got to focus on the smaller stuff like we've done on the rec committee. Trading lifeguards for use of our street sweeper. Great, small project, gets us some benefits, saves us some money, and ultimately more projects like this will lower our taxes and give us a better community. I want to work on more borough-sponsored recreation activities. Things such as the movie night on the beach this summer, fantastic event. Beach bonfire we've run the past 2 years, another great event. I want to run more and plan more items like these that bring the community together. Improvements to our borough open space, such as the plans we're working right now on the Open Space Committee. Putting a bathroom down here at the beach. Having a small kayak or paddleboard launch so that we can have access to our water. Items like these bring the community together. They may seem like small items, but they're what makes a community a community. And I think we can all agree it's what brings the community that small town feel that we love. Maintenance and upkeep of the bank-owned properties in town. We need to do better. Cutting the grass in these properties, making sure that every home looks like a home and a home that people are proud of, regardless of if anybody's living there right now. So again, I've got friends on the hills and down by me in Lower Highlands, and it's time to really come together and focus.
Thank you very kindly. And once more, I do apologize. So now we'll have a 1 minute rebuttal, or you can add to whatever else you said if you have no rebuttal for anybody else, and we will start this with Mr. Braswell for 1 minute to this question, or if you can add anything else you like within the 1 minute period.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't quite get to the end of where I was going with my original answer, but to sum that up, I think we don't have a lot of animosity between the people uptown and downtown. I think we're all very friendly, and they come down and we go up. I don't think there's that kind of a problem. I have some big problems about what he just said about our shared services. The one he used as an example turned out to be a rotten idea, that sharing our street sweeper to get life people for the beach turned out to be rotten. We ended up paying, not only swapping our street sweeper for the lifeguards, we still had to pay for the lifeguards. And all the wear and tear on that machine, that really expensive machine, sweeping up their sand, and then while it's in Seabright, not having a year doing the job that we want doing cleaning our street, turns out to be a rotten job.
Thanks, Mr.
Can't do
Braswell.
that. Cannot do that kind of shared
Thank you
service.
kindly. Cynthia, if you have one, oh, you can't give me a rebuttal because you don't have Rosemary's opinion for this. Scott, thank you
Can I do it?
I do appreciate it. No, I'm not going to give anybody any extra time. Mr. Nolan, do you have any kind of a 1 minute rebuttal or anything you want to add?
No, I got my statement in, thank you.
Mr. Wells?
I'll just say we're a beach community. We're surrounded by water on 3 sides. We have a lot of children down here. We run a program in the summer for children. We needed lifeguards. Bottom line, we needed lifeguards in this community. We need more swim and beach-related activities for our families, our children, our residents, our tourists. Maybe this isn't the most perfect shared service, but it got the job done. It got guards back down on our beaches. It made our beaches safe for those who wanted to swim at the beach. That's all.
You can have lifeguards without getting a street sweeper and
Oh,
Seabright.
hold on, Mr. Braswell. We've already had our 1 minute here. The second question, I'll start with the statement from candidate Ryan's surrogate here. And the second question is, the borough has been without a municipal complex since Hurricane Sandy and does not appear to have an immediate resolution for this. Do you think acquisition of the church property on Route 36 is the right way to go? And if so, what actions will you take to see the project through to its completion? From financing construction to opening the front door of Borough Hall and designing a traffic pattern for the police department during the summer months in particular. We'll start that with Rosemary's statement, please.
It makes no sense with the potential for more frequent and larger storms to locate essential facilities in harm's way. If the Borough Hall was located downtown, we would need flood insurance. The location on the OLPH property resolves that issue. There is not an abundance of land available in the borough that can accommodate a new Borough Hall. Is the deal a good one? Seems like financially sound and fortuitous solution to me, as the initial land costs favor the borough. The proposal to share the space between the church and the state activities shows a unity in the borough. It is a good deal for the church since there is unused real estate which will be forever a target for developers until they acquire it. That can be repurposed after sitting dormant for so long. If not acquired by the borough, any permissible use will be attempted by developers, and that leaves the borough and the local homeowners vulnerable to whatever else might be attempted on that property. Traffic flow is something our police and county state traffic administrators can work out. There is access from downtown via Miller Hill, crossing at the light against summer traffic, or down Miller Street from Highland Avenue and Miller Street, which have been able to accommodate considerable traffic in the past for church activities in the summer and as a feeder road to South Peak for school activities. There is a precedent there to base traffic flow predictions and how to work through them. As for completing the development of the property, we need to look for any funds or grants or any FEMA money still available, anything that could be bundled to accomplish the goal at the lowest taxpayer cost. The vetting of design, location, and construction issues needs to be thorough so local homeowners have a voice. Whatever tone needs to be set, whatever compromises need to be made, I believe I will be able to direct the stakeholders to rise above partisan politics and discourse to achieve a solution that is long overdue. The redevelopment of the old Borough Hall is something that the Highlands business owners should consider. It is prime real estate in the business area of the borough, and the owners should consider that. It has the potential for a parking lot and any future development in the business district. This could even be revenue producing for the borough.
Thank you very kindly. Mr. Nolan?
Thank you. We started doing this process probably 2 years ago on council, and that was selecting the site. Part of it is that we couldn't put anything below the 500-year flood mark. And to give you an idea where you're talking about that is, where you see the new townhouses across from our current firehouse, obviously that was vacant land before we built those townhouses. We talked about doing something there. That was still in the floodplain. So there really wasn't a lot of options downtown or anywhere halfway up the hill to put a new borough hall. So once we started really eliminating other sites with the council at that point, we focused in on what we're talking about as the OLPH parking lot. Now, some of the stuff that was just mentioned is 100% right. We want to keep it out of any dense development up there. We just had a little taste of something like that. I believe it was in October. It might have been, it was the October meeting where somebody owns the property right across the side street there and wanted to put 10 units. Now, 3 of the candidates, myself, Ms. Ryan, and Mr. Braswell, sit on the land use board, and we declined it. We turned it down. I think it was a unanimous decline by everybody up there because it just wasn't appropriate. What we don't want is somebody to do that, and now they were only going to put 10. If you look at that tract of land there, you could probably, with the same type of plan, put 50 there. Nobody wants that. You want to talk about traffic in there. So I think it is a good idea based on all the data at the time. The other thing is we're going to have to bring in, obviously, professional engineers and planners to tell us what the best traffic situation is there, how to route it. It's probably going to be something that we're going to have open meetings about, public meetings, multiple ones. Once we do that and we take money from any agency to relocate up there and they pay us back a percentage of 90%, we may not be able to have any leeway of what we put downtown where the current borough hall is. That was the case when we started doing this 2 years ago. So we may have to knock that down and make that passive park, or I don't even know if we'll be able to pave it, to be honest with you. That was conversations we had in the last year or so. But I am for the borough hall being on the hill for those reasons. We can't put it anywhere else. And we would have to have the professionals in there. I don't think it's going to be just the council people saying how the traffic's going to go. It's going to be engineering, professional planners, and obviously traffic.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wells?
I gotta be honest, I don't love that location up there, but for all the reasons given, it's the best location for our town. With that said, we're gonna need to take very, very careful consideration into how that's gonna affect the surrounding residents. And to that point, I've asked our council liaison for the communications committee to start working now on forming a committee to start getting borough feedback and local residents' feedback on this. We've got to start early on that and make sure we're all on the same page as to what's being done out there. As far as executing, on this large-scale project, and I have information out on my website, gregwells.org, on this, but I'm proposing something a little bit unique in that when we go out and get a new borough administrator, a new hire, I believe we should also hire what's called an engineering project manager, somebody who works for this town, is paid by this town, and answers solely to this town on the execution of this large-scale engineering project. A lot more than I can talk about in 2 minutes, to be honest, but we as a community deserve someone whose sole focus it is to start executing on these huge projects. We're going to be spending a fortune on this. I want somebody, we like to say in the corporate world, actions, owners, and timelines. I want somebody who's going to take action, take ownership, and give me a timeline for this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Wells. Mr. Braswell.
I think everyone's pretty much on target with this. The site selection started in 2015, and I don't think there's too many options. You're out of options and you're out of time. Where you're going to put a 12,000 square foot building in Highlands. Downtown would have been too expensive to operate a borough hall out of because of flood insurance. During a flood, you're not going to be able to get to and from it. So the only choices really are going to be uptown. It's going to cost less. OLPH was really the only suitable lot, and the Archdiocese was interested. You might find another lot, but you're not going to find a lot and the owner interested in letting you have it. So it's 2017 now. This happened in 2015. I don't know why we're hashing it out now. But it's going to happen there. I'm not going to micromanage the project, although I'm going to take great interest in it. This kind of thing I like to watch happen. So I will be up there all the time, just watching the progress. I think the traffic and there's going to be idiosyncrasies of the whole project all the way from the beginning to the end, and they're all going to get worked out. I have no concerns about how the traffic's going to be. I don't think that that kind of use on the property is going to be that disturbing to the surrounding lot owners. It's a fairly low impact use. It won't have anything going on there at night except for maybe the police coming and going, but they're mostly on the street. I don't think it's that big of an impact on the neighborhood. So I think everyone in the long run is going to be pretty happy with everything.
You done with that statement?
I can talk more. Can I go back to one of my other questions?
Have another minute?
No, I like to be ahead of this time. I'm done.
Good enough. Thank you very much. And now there's time for a 1 minute rebuttal to that question. Cynthia, no, again, you can't answer for candidate Ryan. So, Mr. Nolan?
Not a rebuttal, but just to, I think we're all on the same page on this, but it is true we can't afford it either with insurance and everything downtown, but during Sandy, and a lot of people in this room know it because they were involved in some capacity, we had to leave the firehouse where the OEM office is and go to the grammar schools. So obviously you don't want to be in a situation again if God forbid there's another disaster and we have to abandon our command center where all the supplies are and all the people are and all the equipment is. So add that to it and it makes more sense to put it on the hill too.
Mr. Wells, do you want to add anything to that?
Only thing I'll add, and again, I don't think it's going to be impactful for the community around there. But again, if somebody was about to put this in my backyard, I would like our borough to come out and at least talk to me and have me be a part of the input and the decisions. Maybe I want some big trees, or maybe I want a light in the parking lot to shine in a little bit different direction. And I think the residents who are going to be impacted directly by this development should take a big part of it and have their voices heard. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mr. Wells. The third question that they have had an opportunity to see and prepare an answer for is, would you tonight give assurance to the voters that within a month of your taking office, you would conduct a line item review of the municipal budget?
Do we get to rebut the question too?
I'm sorry?
We got to rebut the question
We
too.
just did that.
I submitted these questions to the candidates so that they could prepare responses in advance.
The first one.
No, but I thought we.
After the intermission, there will be questions that they have not seen, that I got either by email or that you folks are writing out tonight and giving to me during this 10-minute intermission.
I don't know if Mr. Braswell got to rebut. number
I'm
two.
sorry?
I don't think Mr. Braswell got to do a rebuttal on 2.
I didn't rebut.
Did I forget you?
I remember. I'm used to it.
The 1 minute I just gave you.
Oh, I think he did.
I did.
Do you want to say something? By all means.
Yeah, I guess.
Feel free. 1 minute.
I'm just confused.
1 minute specifically on the question about the church property, correct?
Yes, the
All
borough
right.
hall.
Go ahead.
Geez, now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, regarding having letting people living at the adjacent properties having a chance, they are going to have that just as a matter of procedure. There will be a site plan review at the planning board where everyone will have a chance to see what the building's going to look like, where it's placed on the property, and we go over things like how the lights are shining. Even if no one is there, we make sure the lights are shining away from the other properties. And the other comment that was made at the table here about having a paid engineer. I'm not opposed to having a dedicated engineer that you contract out, but I am opposed to hiring a guy to do that. You can contract with an engineer and with an agreement that he's your only client. So he's like an employee, but he's not an employee. Employees are, if you can get away without having them, it's better than having them. They'll drag your budget.
Thanks, Mr. Braswell. Thank you very much. The third question, again, would go to Mr. Nolan first. And this question is, would you tonight give assurance to the voters that within a month of your taking office, you would conduct a line item review of the municipal budget, and within 6 months, report back to the public specific areas in which the budget could be cut by at least 5%? Or do you not see any waste or over expenditures in the budget as it has most recently been adopted? Would you be prepared to resign from office if you do not accomplish that goal?
Yes, I would. No. So here's what we did the last time when I was on council. We started and rotated going to a budget advisory committee, if you will. And there was many meetings that the committee had. We went from an average from the year 2000 to 2010, our tax rate averaged 3.29%. From 2011 till 2016, we're at 2.64%, even with all the debt we took on and everything else from Sandy, Irene, and all the other things that we all went through. So what I would do is, again, be smart enough to know you don't know everything. Of course, I'd look at it myself with our CFO and whoever else is on the council that we usually do with like 2 council people, so there's not a sunshine law violation. So whoever the other council person was with me, we'd meet with the CFO, we'd look at it, we'd take it home, we'd review it. I would also ask participation again, as we did from our general, residents, and we had some people that were accountants on there, bookkeepers, whatever their profession was, that they had obviously worked with numbers and knew what they were doing and knew budgets and things like that. And I think they did a great job. I think we were able to maintain and obviously find things that we may not have found as 5 people on the council, because we all have different backgrounds. And the biggest thing we can utilize is the brain power we have in our community, and that's why we started a lot of these committees before I was mayor, when I was mayor, and I'm sure they started some this year too. But I would do the same process again because it worked.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wells.
Thank you. As a product leader for Nielsen, the TV ratings guys, our team manages a $40 million plus budget every year. I'm very, very comfortable and familiar with budgets. The interesting part of that is that we are required every year to give 10% of that budget back at the end of the year. So we ask for it, we plan for it, we've got to figure out how to deliver it 10% cheaper. The idea being is that a lot of the things you do are the same things you do year after year. We are expected to figure out a more efficient way, a faster, cheaper, better way to do the things that we do year in and year out. Some of these very, very small savings, some of them very big savings. Some of them new revenue opportunities. This is what I want to work with. This is what I love to do. I oftentimes use the mantra, you've probably even seen it in some of my information, crumbs make cake. We're not, as I mentioned, we're not going to do this by making drastic cuts to the police, the fire, the first aid. It's going to come through smaller, more innovative solutions. Shared services, new ways to generate revenue, but we can absolutely do it. And for the record, I absolutely agree with Frank's idea. We have to take a hard line on this.
Mr. Braswell?
The budget's going to be a group effort of everyone at the table. But just as a matter of procedure, we're going to review and consider any possible cuts. But I'm not expecting to find the budget in that bad of a shape. Last year's budget increase is only 0.5%, and that's pretty good. Our current books are in great shape. Our CFO is the very best there is in New Jersey, and I'm going to trust his opinion. I do think there has been some wasteful spending in the discretionary department, discretionary spending, and your two new level-headed councilmen are going to mitigate all of that discretionary spending. Any money that could get cut, I don't know if we're going to find 5% or whatever we get to cut from some items. I think because we are in a state of reconstruction in some of our infrastructure, we're going to take those cuts and put them back into some of the underfunded items. But speaking on savings, I expect to get 10 to 20% savings in the sanitary system operation after I complete the projects that I'm going to do there.
Okay.
I should have been like, ooh, ah, because you understand how expensive the sanitary system is? The sanitary system has the single largest bill that we have in there, our treatment expense. $1.8 million every year goes to flushing the toilet. Okay? And I'm going to shave 20% off of that. And operational costs inside the plants. These things are old, they're dilapidated, there's so much room for improvement, and we're just going to see so much leftover money when we're done.
That's a promise?
Yes. I'm that confident, I'm that familiar with the system, and I'm that confident that it's going to happen. It's going to take some expenses to get it going, but the savings will start to happen immediately, without a doubt. I mean, it's just like
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. Surrogate? for candidate Ryan, please.
If the consequence of resigning refers to not performing the line item review, yes, I would resign. If the council is against or unable to even conduct a review aimed at finding a 5% savings, we owe it to the citizens to be rigorous and thorough with how their taxes are spent. However, if such a review proves that there is no good reason to implement such savings, I would not resign. I would instead take aim at capping the budget and guarding against forward creep on it. Ken and I already have sat down with the CFO, and our budget is balanced. I have experience from my employment and from my service on the Board of Education with budgets, how to read them and how to efficiently eliminate waste from them. Thank you.
No, thank you kindly. And we'll have a 1-minute rebuttal to each of these, if there's any rebuttal, or if you want to add anything to what you've already said. Mr. Nolan, we'll start with you for 1 minute.
Just back to the same thing, I think we definitely have to bring the brain power. Obviously, the 5 people on the council, our CFO, who I agree with Mr. Braswell, is one of the best around. He's shown that time and time again since we hired him. I will admit, because he had 4 other jobs at the time, I was against his hiring, but I've said it many times that was a mistake because he does a good job. You know, how can you do 5 jobs? But somehow he does, and he does a great job, and he's definitely one of the best we ever had. But I also think that we can use the other people we have in the community. It wasn't a big deal. It was a couple hours a night, you know, and people came out and they did their thing, and They showed a lot of things out. A lot of us didn't see. Sometimes we didn't want to have the meetings. Sometimes we couldn't make the meetings. I'm definitely guilty of that myself with other things going on in town. But when all was said and done, we did a good job with the budget, and I think we saved everybody money.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Merle. Ken, fantastic idea. Like, let's get started right now.
I have.
Like, this second.
Unbeknownst to anybody, I've already started. I got it going.
And you're working with the town today. Are you committed to doing this, regardless of who wins or loses?
Absolutely.
Can we make this happen?
If you win, I'm going to do it in spite of it.
If I win, I'm going to tap you to work on this.
There you go.
Because this is exactly what I'm talking about.
No
We
need to
have
touch
take
me.
the best
I got it
ideas.
happening. I got it happening.
That's all, guys. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you kindly. Mr. Braswell?
$1.8 million to flush your toilet. I mean, if one single bill from one vendor, $1.8 million to flush your toilet. No matter where it happens in the borough, all the way to Peak Street, at East Point, no matter where it is. You know where it goes? It goes downhill. And you know where it ends up? In front of my office. Every single flush goes right in front of my office, no matter where it comes from. So I'm involved no matter what. 20%. 10% I promise, but I'm going for 20.
Thank you very much. And this concludes the first portion of the debate. We will have a 10-minute intermission. I will ask if any of you have questions. If you would just bring them up to me. I do not want any of the candidates to see the questions at a